It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends and ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to jump on that Sharp Interactive board. We're going to go through Riso's first half of their FY ending March of 2024. The numbers are in, and I just love to present Riso's numbers because they're just always good. I mean, at the end of the day, they make money. They have a great asset to equity ratio. They just do a lot of things right. And today I wanted to compare some of the Riso numbers to our friends at Konica Minolta. And I know that some of you are saying, well, Ray, Konica Minolta, they're a multi-billion-dollar business, and Riso is going to do between $500-600 million a year in business. They're the smallest OEM, if you will, in our space. Is there really a comparison to Konica Minolta? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this: I don't care how much money you produce if you can't make any profit producing it. It doesn't matter. I mean, when you think about Konica Minolta, yeah, they might be multiple of billions in revenue, but they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars, and they've been losing money for 3 years in a row. They're in the fourth year. We'll see how it turns out, but it's not looking too good. And I think Konica Minolta could actually learn some things from Riso. I mean, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the industry's disrupted. It's going through massive transition, and it's only going to be those players that know how to produce profitability that are going to get through this. It's only going to be those players that can produce profitability, that have fiduciary responsibility, that are going to be able to navigate the turmoil that's coming to them. And those OEMs, like our friends over here at Riso, have options. When you're profitable, you have options. What will the future hold for Riso? Who knows? But I'll tell you what, if I was another OEM out there, I would seriously consider doing something with Riso. Maybe some kind of partnership. They got great ink technology, and at the end of the day, ink technology is kind of where it's going, especially in that production space, which Riso is very, very good at. So without any further ado, let's jump on the Sharp board, and I'll share with you what I put together. First thing we got to do is talk about their top line revenue, $234.7 million. That's for the first 6 months of their FY ending 2024. Operating income of $12.1 million, or 5.2%. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, they're down from their operating income over last year, but they're still above the line. And I want to show you this slide because I think this is interesting. They have not been below the line. I went back as far as 2018. This is their operating income, and these are the years, but you can, let me turn on my magic pen here, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on a second. Let me get this thing going here. You got to have the magic pen going. So, ladies and gentlemen, I went from 2018 all the way to 2023. There's the chart right there. And you can see the percentage of operating profit through those years. In 2018, it was 4.5, 4.5 in 2019, 3.3 in 2020. The global pandemic really ramping up in 2020. 2021, they were at 2.0, but they never went below the line. They did whatever they had to do to make sure they were profitable. FY 2022, 6%. Their year ending March of 2023, they were at 8%. And those are fantastic percentages because they never went below the line, and they're a $500-600 million player in the space. You would think the smaller players would be the ones that would get all the pressure. Well, not in Riso's case. If you look at their revenue for that same period of time, you can see in 2018, the revenue was pretty high. And you know what? In 2018, their operating profit wasn't as high as it was their year ending 2023 with less revenue. So you can see that the company adjusts as it goes along. It just understanding how to control its costs. So great job, Riso. I'm proud of you for doing that. Now, I want to do some comparisons here. When I was talking about the other OEM's financials, I got into the consolidated financials pretty heavily, and I didn't really do that with Konica Minolta, so I'm going to catch up some of that in today's episode with Riso. But I wanted to look at the gross profit overall. So you have your revenue line, you have your cost of sales and gross profit. If you look at our friends over at Riso, their gross profit percentage is 57%. If you look at our friends at Konica Minolta, the gross profit percentage is 43%. So you can see that Riso has a much higher gross profit. They're starting out with a bigger number to deduct all these costs from, right? If you look at the selling and general administrative expenses over at Konica Minolta, represents 43% of their revenue. If you look at the selling and general expenses over here at Riso, it represents 51% of their revenue. But ladies and gentlemen, when you start out with 57% gross profit, you can have a little bit higher selling and general expenses because you're still making money. Our friends over at Konica Minolta had a 0% operating profit because they came in with $5.3 million against $3.7 billion in revenue. And folks, this is like one of the first times Konica made money at the end of a period in a long, long time. And it wasn't that much, it was 0%. But I think that was an interesting exercise to go through. I wanted to look at the assets equity ratio between Konica Minolta and our friends over at Riso. Let's start with Riso first. So Riso has total assets of $564.3 million. Their liabilities are $135.6 million. And their shareholder equity is $396.1 million. Giving them a 72% asset to equity ratio, meaning 28% of Riso's assets are encumbered. That's pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. Let's look at our friends over at Konica Minolta. Total assets of $9.3 billion, total liabilities of $5.7 billion, total equity of $3.6 billion. Their asset to equity ratio is 38.7%, meaning 61.3% of Konica Minolta's assets are encumbered. But when you think about assets, you got to put in play the goodwill, the intangible asset. In other words, assets that are listed as assets that could be worth nothing. That's where they get all the impairment charges from, those goodwill assets. If you look over here in Riso's case, they only have 1.3% of their assets are intangible. 1.3%, $7.4 million against assets of $564.3 million. That's fantastic. That means their assets are real stuff. Okay? You look over here at Konica Minolta, $1.9 billion are goodwill and intangible assets. It represents 20% of their total assets. And I could just guess, and Konica could put in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that $1.9 billion in goodwill and intangible assets over there at Konica Minolta, a lot of that's because of all covered. That's probably a lot of that's in all covered. Meaning one day when they have to do a big impairment charge against all covered, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have to do that sooner or later. We can all imagine that, right? But ladies and gentlemen, 20% of your assets in goodwill and intangibles is not a good number, especially when 61.3% of your assets are already encumbered. So you can see. And it doesn't matter. I don't care how much money people make here or revenue. Top line revenue is irrelevant. If you can't manage the business with fiduciary responsibility, you're going to be a train wreck mess. You'll just be a bigger mess if you're bringing in more revenue that you're losing money on. Ladies and gentlemen, I was at Print United and I went to the Riso booth. They were actually doing a launch of the T1200. What an amazing machine. But inkjet technology, you know I'm excited about inkjet technology. I believe it is the future. I believe that Riso has many opportunities. They'll have opportunities, I think, to be an OEM's OEM, if you will. I think Riso could be making their equipment with other names on it. The industry's got to have some consolidation. If you think about the products that Riso makes, the quality of those products, and they have a niche market, folks, and they're really good at that. They understand their business. They're not trying to be everything for everybody. They're very detailed, they're very organized, and they have a place in the marketplace. And I believe that one of the challenges for Riso is to figure out who they're going to partner with. I mean, what OEM should we partner with, right? I mean, they got to be thinking this. And I think we're going to see some changes in the marketplace over the next year and a half, 2 years. And I believe that Riso's in a great place, in a great position. And they're, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, they're financially run well. And they should be applauded for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, just remember this. It doesn't matter how much money you put on the top line if there's none left on the bottom line. And everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.